You know, we tend to think of patience as a virtue, right? Something that grows with wisdom as we get older. But what if it's not that simple? What if patience is actually deeply tied to something way more concrete, like our financial situation? Okay, let's dive into some really fascinating research that uncovers this surprising and honestly pretty dramatic link between our age, our wealth, and how long we're willing to wait for something good. All right, first up, a question for you. I want you to really imagine this choice. You can get an extra payment right now, today, equal to 1 full month of your salary. Or you could wait exactly 1 year from today and get double that amount. So what do? Just take a second, think about it. Your answer, whatever it is, gets right to the heart of what we're going to explore. Now, what's so interesting here is that we have these two very common but kind of conflicting ideas about patience. On one hand, we have this notion that it just blossoms with age, you know? The older you get, the wiser you get, the more patient you become. But on the other hand, we also totally get that poverty creates this immense pressure to just focus on right now, on immediate survival. It forces a short-term view. So which one is it? And how do these two ideas play off each other over a person's lifetime? Well, to figure this puzzle out, researchers came up with this really elegant, super simple tool. They call it the Preference for Earlier versus Later Income Scale, or PELI for short. And yep, it's the exact question I just asked you. The absolute brilliance of this test is that the reward, 1 month's salary, is automatically scaled to each person's life. It's a meaningful amount of money to anyone, doesn't matter if you're in New York or Nairobi, which makes the results incredibly powerful when you start comparing them. And listen, they didn't just ask a few hundred people. No, they put this exact question to over 50,000 people across 65 different countries. They were going for a truly global snapshot of human patience. The incredible scale of this means that the findings we're about to look at aren't just some weird quirk of one culture or one type of economy. This stuff reflects a really widespread human pattern. So, what do the results show? Well, when the researchers looked at the youngest people in the study, we're talking 18 to 24-year-olds, they found something you might kind of expect. People across all income levels showed roughly the same amount of patience. Whether they were rich or poor, it was about a 50-50 split on who chose to wait for the bigger reward. It's like youth, with all its optimism and long horizons, is a great equalizer. But this is where the story takes a really sharp turn. Because as people got older, their choices, their whole relationship with the future, it started to split apart. And not just by a little bit. Their paths diverged dramatically. And this right here, this graph, shows the core finding perfectly. Just look at these two lines pulling away from each other. For people in the richest group, their patience level stays remarkably high and steady all through their lives. But for those in the poorest group, you can see their patience just steadily drops as they get older. It's almost like they end up living in two completely different psychological realities. And let's put a hard number on that because it is staggering. By the time they're 65 or older, the percentage of the poorest group who are willing to wait for that bigger reward, it plummets to just 38%. Meanwhile, for the richest people of the same age, it stays way up there at 61%. That is a massive, massive gap in how these two groups see the trade-off between today and tomorrow. So, of course, this leads us to the billion-dollar question. Why? What on earth is driving this huge divide? Is it that poverty just wears you down over a lifetime and that makes you less patient? Or is it that being impatient from the get-go is what leads you down a path toward poverty in the first place? It's that classic chicken or egg problem, right? Well, the research points to two powerful competing theories. The first one is that poverty actually causes impatience. The constant, relentless pressure of present needs, as one economist called it, it just makes it almost impossible to think about, let alone prioritize a future you're not even sure you can afford. But the second theory flips the script entirely. It says impatience causes poverty. If you spend a lifetime choosing the smaller, immediate reward over the larger, delayed one, you're just naturally not going to accumulate wealth. And of course, both could be true, right? Creating this really tough, reinforcing cycle. And what's wild is if you zoom out from individuals and look at whole countries, this pattern basically holds true. Countries where the population is, on average, more patient also tend to have a higher GDP, people live longer, and they have more stable economies with lower inflation. Patience, it seems, is a key ingredient for national prosperity, not just for personal wealth. And yeah, there are cultural patterns too. The study found that the highest levels of patience tended to be in Germanic, Nordic, and Anglo-American cultural groups. Now, this doesn't mean one culture is inherently better or anything like that, but it does suggest that these broad societal norms and economic histories can really shape a whole country's collective approach to the future. What's really incredible is that decades ago, way before all this data existed, a couple of economists basically predicted this exact outcome. They put out a theory that, and I'm quoting here, the patience gap between rich and poor will increase with age. It's just a striking forecast that this massive global study has now powerfully confirmed. So look, here's the crucial takeaway. Patience isn't just some fixed personality trait that we're born with and that's that. Our economic reality, our wealth or our poverty, can fundamentally reshape our entire orientation toward the future. And that effect just gets stronger and more pronounced as we go through life. And that leaves us with a really profound and kind of uncomfortable question to chew on. If the circumstances we live in can literally shorten our mental horizons, if they can alter our very ability to plan for and invest in our own future, then what does that truly mean for our whole idea of equality of opportunity?